Previously on the Flash Rewrite.
Therefore, I wanted to maintain those changes so that way Barry and Iris never grew up together, because that brother-sister undertone still bothers me. I know good and well, I've seen it all the time in my previous video that they're saying like, oh, they're not actual brother and sister, and I'm like, listen, I understand that very much well, but that undertone still bothered me, and there were still a handful of clips from the original show that showed how weird it was to me back then, and it still bothers me now. I do not want that undertone. I do not care. Other than that, I would have changed the relationship between Barry and Patty Spivot. I would have made it a lot more solid compared to how the show presented it, because I significantly preferred the relationship between Barry and Patty instead of the Destiny angle between Barry and Iris. Also, no Barry Allen court case. I thought that was the most dumbest aspect of that season, to my own personal opinion. What's good, y'all? It's your boy Kadukun, and welcome to the grand finale of my CW Flash Complete Rewrite series. First off, I would like to say I want to thank everyone who stuck around with me through this entire journey and through this entire rewrite, and I'm glad you stuck around to actually get to the last video, and I appreciate your patience. I promise to work on getting better at these future rewrite series videos, and actually trying to step up the quality even more as I go on. But enough of that, let's dive back into the world of the CW Flash and how I would rewrite it. Previously, we broke down my visions from seasons 1 to 3, taking Barry Allen from his iconic Rogues arc to his intense storytelling featuring the Thinker and Grodd. If you missed that video, definitely go back and check it out for all the details on how I reimagined those seasons and getting a little bit more context on how I restructured the seasons from this video going forward. Now let's dive into season 4, the Savitar arc. For a lot of CW Flash fans, season 3 was one of the last genuinely good seasons, but for me, it's where some of the cracks of the show's storytelling really started to show for me. Originally, it was where Barry began to experience the full consequences of Flashpoint and realized he wasn't in his original timeline. However, since I switched up the villain for season 3, I revoked the fallout from Flashpoint and decided to reapproach things in a slightly different way. In my vision of season 4, Barry has mostly come to terms with the changes Flashpoint caused, but it still doesn't fully grasp the extent of those changes. He's settled into his role as leader of Team Flash, working closely with Iris, Wally, Wallace, Caitlin, Cisco, and Joe, and by this point, Jesse Quick is the only new speedster on the team thanks to the experiment in season 2 to restore Barry's speed, which accidentally gave Jesse her powers. This season will kick off with Harry Wells and Jesse returning to Earth 1, asking Barry to help Jesse to refine her abilities. As Barry trains her, he begins to notice a surge of unfamiliar metas appearing across Central City, many of whom he doesn't recognize due to the lingering effects of Flashpoint. Also allows us to reintroduce August Hart, who at this point still doesn't know Barry is the Flash. August has warmed up to Barry and the group after the events of season 3, but we add a personal twist by introducing his brother Jorge, who's visiting August in town. August warns Barry and Cisco that he will be unavailable for the next 2 days to spend some time with his brother. A lot of the side plots from the original show would remain intact in my rewrite, with some tweaks. Caitlin continues to wrestle with her Killer Frost powers, and Gypsy still arrives to challenge H.R. Wells' presence on Earth 1, and Ralph Dibny gets more time to develop as a hero, aided by Cisco and Doug, Barry's best friend. But the real meat of the season starts to slowly build up to Savitar's introduction. Like Julian in the original show, August begins hearing whispers lingering in his head calling his name, which are later revealed to be connected to Dr. Alchemy. Unlike in the original show, these whispers also plague Wallace but not Wally, creating tension between the brothers. Dr. Alchemy emerges as a mysterious figure, granting meta powers to people who had abilities during Flashpoint. However, August's visions are hazy and don't get a full clear picture of what's happening, adding to his confusion and paranoia. After freeing August, Jaeger accepts him to help Barry dispose of Alchemy's stone. During this process, Barry is accidentally thrusted into the future, where he witnesses a chilling scene, Savitar killing someone close to him, Unlike the original series, Barry doesn't know who the victim is. It's a shadowy figure you can't really figure out or make out from first glance. This ambiguity adds a layer of anxiety for Barry, so it's left questioning if his future self failed because he didn't care enough or because he simply isn't strong enough to stop Savitar. With this uncertainty, creates a compelling dynamic as the team tries to prepare for the tragedy Barry saw, each member of the Team Flash becoming a potential victim, forcing Barry to validate his care and commitment to all of them. To spice things up, I would throw in a little cheeky romantic subplot involving Barry, Iris, and Patty just to add a little bit more emotional complexity, but that's just a little bit more drama stuff if I would add in for that season. Meanwhile, Wallace's visions of Savitar worsened, leaving him increasingly ineffective in the field. In a pivotal filler episode I would throw in, August decides to throw himself back into CCPD work to distract himself from his guilt over being Dr. Alchemy. He investigates a meta named Ultraviolet suspected to be working for Savitar. August impulsively goes undercover, but the operation goes awry while his brother Jorge shows up unaware of the danger, and tragically Jorge is killed by Ultraviolet and August is left broken. Cisco and Ralph will rescue August, but the fallout leads to a heated confrontation between Team Flash. Barry hesitates to help August's mission fuels resentment, and Wallace's struggles help exacerbate the tension. This argument not only fractures the team, but also sets the stage for August's deeper lack of involvement in the fight against Savitar. Like in the original show, at some point Wallace's stress and guilt over the whispers from Savitar's hit a breaking point when he makes a desperate move to rid Team Flash of Savitar once and for all. He takes the remaining fragments of Alchemy's stone, whatever was left over like in the original show, intending to throw them back into the Speed Force. Instead, this act backfires and spectacularly freeing Savitar from his prison and trapping Wallace in his place. Wally immediately informs Barry, but the time Barry arrives it's too late. Wallace is gone, and Savitar emerges in his full terrifying glory. Barry faces off the real Savitar for the first time, but suffers a devastating loss. Beaten and shaken, Barry becomes desperate to protect everyone. Team Flash, Doug, August, and even the citizens of Central City. Barry's growing desperation drives him to run to the future, hoping to uncover Savitar's identity. However, when he meets his future self, he finds no clear answers. Future Barry doesn't know Savitar's true identity either, but he reveals a strategy that once imprisons Savitar. He also introduces Barry to Tracy Brand, a brilliant scientist, to help develop a device capable of harnessing the energy from Savitar's armor. Armed with this knowledge, Barry returns back to the present and seeks Tracy's help. As Barry works with Tracy to create the device, Killer Frost captures Cisco, Patty, and Doug. This kidnapping further drives a wedge between Team Flash, raising tensions and fears. Eventually, Savitar's identity is revealed. He is a time remnant from Barry Allen, abandoned and ostracized by Team Flash after the real Barry Allen sacrificed himself in another timeline. Savitar's plan is not just about revenge, it's about rewriting history to ensure his existence becomes a constant in the multiverse. He seeks to transform Barry into his very same vengeful figure, perpetuating a cycle of destruction and self-loathing. Savitar's connection to Barry's memories gives him an edge, always keeping him one step ahead of Team Flash. To counter this, the team devises a plan. Barry will focus entirely on rescuing Wallace, leaving the rest of the team free to build the device without interfering with Savitar. This change avoids the cliche of just Barry being stuck in the machine and just getting amnesia and forgetting his whole entire identity and name, and instead of doing that, it emphasizes on the team's cohesion and trust in each other. Now, on the day Savitar predicted someone close to Barry would die, the stakes skyrocket. Killer Frost kidnaps Cisco, while Savitar takes Doug, Patty, Iris, and Joe, scattering them across the city. Savitar uses his speed mirages or time remnants to create chaos, forcing Barry, Wallace, and Jay Garrick to split up and attempt simultaneous rescues. The team's device, designed to neutralize Savitar's speed, has only 2 charges instead of 1 in the original show. Tracy strategically fires the first shot in the middle of the battlefield, creating a blinding light and an EMP pulse that temporarily dampens all Speedster's powers. This disorientates Savitar and scatters the hostages. Barry and Savitar temporarily are the only ones who are able to move and engage in an intense battle. However, Savitar gains the upper hand and is able to grab another hostage that looks like Patty, setting up the stage again for what Barry saw in the future. Tracy fires the second shot directly at Savitar, but his armor absorbs the energy and he was prepared for this outcome, meaning that he wasn't going to get trapped in the same way again. At this moment, just like the original show, a tragic thing happens. Patty is stabbed by Savitar in the chest, so as it may seem. In the twist, it's revealed that Doug, using HR's holographic disguise pen, had swapped places with Patty. Doug sacrifices himself to save her, leaving Barry devastated, losing his best friend. Fueled by grief and rage, Barry unleashes his full potential using his phasing ability to penetrate Savitar's armor and control it himself. And instead of a general grandiose speech of Savitar delivered in the original show talking about how he becomes Savitar and the original Savitar and all of this mumbo jumbo, I would instead rewrite the monologue to be like this.
You wanted to be a god, but forgot you are only a man blessed by a godly force. And like every man, you have sinned beyond imagination. The sins of Flashpoint are on your hands, Barry. And I will make sure you never forget. No matter what Earth or timeline you live in, I am you, and you are me.
Therefore, Barry resists killing Savitar. And instead of him being defeated by a single, measly, worthless bullet, I would have made it that since Savitar is a time remnant from a future Barry Allen, I would make it that he found a way to separate that remnant's connection to future Barry and actually return him back to the Speed Force. He will essentially dissipate and become part of the Speed Force energy, but the battle leaves deep scars for Team Flash. I would also make it that days after Savitar's defeat, everyone begins to celebrate, but it's short-lived when a severe storm begins to brew over Central City, a Speed Force storm. The storm grows and grows until Barry figures out that the Speed Force prison that once held Wallace and Savitar has become unstable and needs someone to take place of Savitar, or else the storm will become so large that will engulf the city and eventually destroy it. Barry willingly goes into the Speed Force prison, having his heartfelt goodbyes with Team Flash, Patty, and Iris, and all the rest of his family members, and then once Barry enters, the storm ends, but ends with a high voltage burst, then to nothingness, where the season ends and fades to black, with the last scene being Barry talking to his mother into the Speed Force. Now, moving on to season 5, this season in my head would have been a season that mainly follows Wally and Wallace West. So to begin with the season, before showing how it happened, I would reveal that Wally West has become a speedster and has taken up the mantle of the Flash and fights crime along with Wallace as Kid Flash. I would make it that it's revealed very early in the beginning of this season that the burst that happened at the end of the previous season when Barry entered the Speed Force launched multiple lightning strikes across the city, and one of those lightning strikes hits Wally, granting him his super speed. For this arc, I would make this season grow the independent personalities of Wally and Wallace, also keeping the previous connection that Caitlin used to have with Ramsey. Also, the season would follow Ralph, Wally, Cisco, Iris, Wallace, and Joe investigating Ramsey after he attempts to get help from the team to receive dark matter in order to improve his blood research to help cure that genetic disease he has known as HLH, meaning that I am making Bloodwork the main antagonist for Wally that he has to face without Barry's help or guidance. On top of that, he also has to deal with his rivalry against Wallace and their personal feelings and frustrations since Barry's departure. To me, Bloodwork was one of the most underrated villains in the entire CW Flash that I wish got utilized even more, because he actually was able to attack Barry so effectively when it came to his morals, beliefs, and thoughts. Almost just as good as Thawne's manipulation. So I thought this would be a great villain for Wally to deal with. At the middle of the season, I would have Ramsey follow the same path in the original show, making him obsessed with the battle against death and making himself and others immortal. He would cloud Wally's judgment by showing him the possibilities of what could have happened if people like Doug, Barry's dad, Barry's mom, etc. never died, and showing how the Speed Force is the reason why a lot of these deaths are happening, and deepening the personal conflict between Wally and Wallace, and I would make Wally give in to Ramsey's possession. At the end of the season, after Wally was freed from the possession by Team Flash and Wallace, they have their final fight. Once Ramsey is beaten, Wally is suddenly attacked by a bunch of mysterious red lightning. He sees the lightning dash around the city and he's chasing after it thinking it's another speedster, but he's not catching up to anyone. It's just particles of red electricity. During the chase, he hears this echoing voice of malice, of anger, of frustration, and eventually it just stops and disappears and Wally loses track of it. But Wallace was able to get Ramsey locked up in Argus. However, at the end of this season, I would also make Wallace do what he similarly did in the official show and have him venture off to help deal with his internal struggles and leaves everything in the hands of Wally. Additionally, I am not sure if I was a big fan of this idea, but I thought it would be a cool idea to incorporate an idea that Team Flash finds a way to visit Barry in the Speed Force, like visiting hours in a prison, but that was a loose idea. You guys can tell me if you think that idea is cool or not. I wasn't really a big fan of him just kind of just being lumped out of the Speed Force and then just gets his powers off rip or whatever the case may be, but that's just a brief idea. That's a little bit of a sniggle I wanted to throw in there. For season 6, this is where I would push towards a build up towards an ultimate conclusion to the show. In this season, I would have August reintegrate himself back into Team Flash after the events of season 4. In this season, August brings up the Black Hole organization again and says he has been working with the CCPD to deal with a shadow leader. He enlists the helps of Wally, Ralph, and Cisco to help him deal with the organization, which they agree with. So they go along with helping August. Ralph and Cisco feel something is off with August, but Wally decides to be a bit naive about it since he wasn't very close to August, but he wanted to actually build a relationship with it. As the investigation goes on, they learn about Evan McCulloch, an ex-FBI mercenary that was gifted a suit that allowed him to travel to the mirror dimension and manipulate reflective surfaces, which dubbed him the name of Mirror Master, and he has been developing and improving the suit after he's left the FBI. But after the particle accelerator explosion, he was affected by the dark matter. It created a mirror duplicate of him that didn't care about the development of technology and only cared to create a world filled with duplicates, so the duplicate killed the original Evan and assumed his personality or identity. Anyways, once the team confronted Evan, August began an aggressive interview that revealed under the surface that he is looking for the killer of his brother, Ultraviolet. Evan refuses to tell him any more crucial information because an ongoing court case is happening and he doesn't want to give any crucial information that he doesn't need to give out. And August makes a very vague threat to him on what he will do if he doesn't tell him any information soon. I would even do a scene where August questions Wally's judgment and asks him, "Are you going to handle this?" with a look of contempt on his face, and Wally would naively simply reply, "Yes, I will handle it, man." For this season, I'll make it the only season that has 2 major villains. In the beginning first half, Mirror Master would be a frontline villain to Godspeed, because what would happen is similar to the original show season 7, I believe. People will start to disappear and act out of character, showing that people are being trapped in the mirror dimension. Then Wally would have a 1-on-2 fight with Evan and Ultraviolet. Wally would have a pretty long struggle until he was able to incapacitate them long enough until they were locked up in Argus. However, until the episode ends, Team Flash will get an alert from Argus about a breach. Wally rushes over to see a handful of metas in the prison have been killed. Wally hears a struggle further and sees Evan is dead on the floor of his cell with a white hazy figure would be in front of him holding Ultraviolet by the neck. Before Wally can even rush over to save her, a vibrating arm is thrusted into her chest and she drops dead. The figure will look at Wally and just simply say, the figure will speed off and Wally will chase after it, but is completely outrun by a wide margin. He can't even get close to him. Then pushing to the second half of the season, this is where Wally comes to a desperate decision to get Barry out of the Speed Force because despite all his training, he can't seem to match the speed of the mysterious White Speedster. Therefore, we get the plan that Cisco used to bring Barry out of the Speed Force back in the original show because I couldn't think of any other possible plans that they could make up to bring him out of the Speed Force outside of just him just running out of it. And then eventually Barry is freed from the Speed Force. Now we have Barry training Wally since Barry has become incredibly faster since he has absorbed substantial amounts of Speed Force energy and to a degree has the ability to tap deeper into the energy of the Speed Force if he needs to get even greater speeds than he had before and gain new abilities like Speed Force constructs and whatever else you want to throw in there. Then, at the latter half of the season, it would be revealed to Barry and Wally that August is Godspeed. He will then explain that he got his powers during the Speed Force storm since the lightning strike hit a courtroom dealing with the criminal proceedings relating to his brother's death, and Evan McCulloch was defending his company, and when a crucial piece of evidence was about to be presented, the lightning struck the courthouse, destroying part of the building and hitting August directly, making him a speedster. He then blames Barry for not only his brother's death, but all the senseless deaths that has happened since him being the Flash and creating Flashpoint, revealing all of his pent-up resentment towards him. Also, he thinks Wally is worthless, a guy that is just a bootleg version of the Flash. He also believes that someone as dim-witted as him shouldn't even be the Flash, and his overly kind heart is going to cause more death than Barry could ever be. So then, he resents them both very much. Additionally, I would make it that he has taken a more potent but stable version of Velocity X, which is why he is able to become even faster than the both of them combined, currently. Eventually, he grows a god complex, taking inspiration from Savitar when he was Dr. Alchemy and dubs himself Godspeed. I would incorporate in the final fight that Barry and Wally tap deeper into the Speed Force and learn to share their speed amongst each other, making them even faster than they were before. Due to the speed boost, they were able to defeat Godspeed, and we don't get lightning swords, we don't get Super Flash Star Wars laser fight, no. However, suddenly, August is saved by the mysterious red lightning that attacked Wally in the previous season. Once again, they try to chase after the lightning, but it vanishes and realizes it has ran back into the negative Speed Force, and they are unfortunately unable to get August back. But by the end of everything, everyone is happy and is celebrating Barry's return. Now we've come to the final season, the climactic ending of how I would rewrite the series. If you guys have been really messing with this video, don't forget to leave a like and make sure you subscribe also to get more videos like this. Now, the beginning of the final season will be a sense of calm. It's been some time, a lot of time has passed since the last season, and Barry is now married to Patty Spivot, and she is now dubbed as Patty Spivot Allen. And he is now, alongside with Wally, has been finding ways to balance his hero life and his family life. Every day, he and Wally make quick work of the rogues, enjoying a rare moment of peace. However, this tranquility is shattered when Jesse Quick emerges from a breach, battered and drained of Speed Force energy. As Team Flash investigates, Wallace West, erratic and terrified, is found muttering a single word: Savitar. The mystery deepens when Barry is pulled back in time to the day of his mother's death. There, he encountered the Reverse Flash and is thrusted into a series of events that will bring his story back to full circle of how his mother's death, revisiting the key moments in his life. Meanwhile, all of these succession of events, Wally is left alone trying to figure out what is happening between Wallace and Jesse, which makes him think back to the red lightning that he had to deal with and the negative Speed Force, where he wants to learn more about the negative Speed Force and figure out what's going on alongside them. Also meanwhile, Eddie Thawne is resurrected in the future, going by a different name and has no memories of his previous life in season 1. And as he is living his life, eventually he starts to get memories of his past and is now struck by a random red bolt of lightning from the negative Speed Force. Slowly, as his memories begin to return, Eddie is manipulated by a sinister voice that convinces him that Barry stole his life. Fueled by jealousy and rage and pain, Eddie becomes Cobalt Blue, gathering the past villains of Team Flash, Savitar, Zoom, Reverse Flash, and Godspeed, and alongside, if I really could, I would throw in Bloodwork in there as well to get a little bit of variety instead of just being all speedsters, and maybe the Thinker and Grodd, mainly the Thinker if I really could. This season will build up to like the epic showdown of Cobalt Blue launching a multi-scale attack to rewrite time and history, using the negative Speed Force to just tear reality apart at his own will. And instead of having the final fight be Allegra and Cecile and Barry and all these random people in the final fight would include Barry, Wally, Wallace, Cisco, Killer Frost, and Jay Garrick to unite in one final fight against the Rogues Gallery, including Jesse Quick as well if I could. I would make that each team member has a crucial role. I would even include Killer Frost Speedster if I could, making her take the Velocity X to actually have a fighting chance against all these other speedsters. And if I could, I feel like it would be cool to make that final fight take part inside of the negative Speed Force, showing how it affects other speedsters and how it actually can make them change as they go along and how it's been around for a long time. Then, as each villain is defeated by every other character on Team Flash, whether it's by combined moves or 1v1s, whichever one, I can think of it in many possible ways, eventually Cobalt Blue, or aka Eddie, realizes that they're on the ropes and they are about to lose. Therefore, Cobalt Blue, now consumed by power, realizes too late that his actions have destabilized both the negative and the original Speed Force. Barry and the other speedsters work together to stabilize the Speed Force, but at a great cost. So Eddie goes through his redemption arc. He begs for forgiveness after his actions and he forgives Barry and realizes that he was being lied to. Barry, Wally, and Wallace and every other speedster that have their speedster powers at the time would have to do something to actually stabilize the original Speed Force, and I would kind of do a callback to Young Justice where either Wally or Wallace sacrifice themselves to maintain the Speed Force, saving the multiverse or Earth Prime to be a little bit more accurate at the cost of his own life. This moment, of course, it will be bittersweet as the team members mourn the loss of their friend, but find solace in the legacy that they've left behind. Then, in the final scenes, Barry reflects on his journey. Now a father with Patty on his side, in a poetic twist, Barry runs back to the night of the particle accelerator and reveals that he is the lightning bolt responsible for striking him and giving him the powers that he was using all this time, cementing his role as being the Flash as a fixed point in time. At least that's how I would explain it. And then eventually he learns that he can actually pass the Speed Force energy to other people, and then he builds a team of other speedsters along the way, building a new generation of speedster heroes. And that's about it. That is my complete and utter rewrite of the CW Flash. Once again, that I've said before in the beginning, I'm very sorry that it took me so long to get this done, and I am glad for those who stuck with me for the support of this series. I hope you enjoyed my take on the series. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and also what do you guys think of my changes. Keep in mind I did remove a lot of the crossover events, so my timelines might be a little bit off. I was trying to make it as cohesive as I can, so forgive me if it sounds a little bit jumbled or wrong. Outside of that, what would you add or change? Let me know. I'm looking forward to the conversation we have in the comments. In my first video, there was a lot of conversation. A lot of you guys made up really cool ideas, and I would love to learn more of what you guys think. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't worry, I'm going to be doing even more rewrites and even deep dives of other series and shows in the later future, so look forward to that, and I will make sure that they improve in quality over time. And with that, keep your power levels high and your dreams alive. It's your boy Kadukun, and peace, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
FMA, handle business, don't play. On point when it comes to the anime. Jack and Daxter, ayy, let's go. The ultimate heroes, don't stop, we on the road. Kadukun, yeah, welcome to the channel.